Okay, now we're going to move on to fractions. And again, we're doing adding and subtracting. Same signs, we're going to add and keep. Different signs, we're going to subtract and take. We look at this first one here. 4 1/3 plus 7 1/2. I have a positive number, so I have same sign, so I'm going to add and keep. Now, just out of habit, I always like to write mine this direction, and I always write my larger number at the top. That's just the habit out of mine. So however you'd like to do it, whenever you're adding, you can switch the order, but when you're subtracting, you can't. So we have to pay attention to that. Now, I have to have a common denominator. And this is where a lot of you guys get stuck because you don't know what that common denominator is. The easiest way I teach my students is to just start doing multiples of the denominator. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then do multiples of the other denominator, 3, 6, 9, 12. You want to find the smallest number that they have in common. That's why it's called a common denominator. The smallest number they have in common is a 6. So that's going to be my new denominator. So I'm going to put a 6 here and a 6 here. Now, 2 times 3 gives me 6. But I also have to accommodate the numerator as well. So 1 times 3 is going to give me 3. If you were to reduce 3 6, you would be reducing it to 1/2. So I'm not changing the value of the number, I'm just changing the way it looks. Same thing down here. 3 times 2 gives me 6. So 1 times 2 is going to give me 2 here. Again, if you were to reduce 2 6, you would get 1/3. So I'm not changing the value, I'm just changing the way it looks. Now that I have common denominators, I can add. 3 plus 2 makes 5. Keep my denominator. And then you add your whole number. 7 plus 4 makes 11. 5, 6 can't be reduced, and it's not an improper fraction, so we're just going to leave it exactly how it is. Add a positive and a positive being added together, so there is my answer for that first one. Okay, we'll go ahead and do the same thing on the next one. I have a negative and a negative. So although it looks like I'm supposed to be subtracting, since this number out front is negative, I'm actually going to be adding these two together. So we are going to add and keep the sign, which the answer will be negative. Again, we need a common denominator. So I'm going to list out my multiples. I have 6, 12, 18, 24, 32. Okay, we'll stop there. 24, not 32. Hello. Getting ahead of myself. 30. And then we have 8, 16, 24. Okay, we can stop there because we see that we have 24 in common. So my denominator is going to be 24. Six times 4 makes 24, so 1 times 4 is going to make 4. 8 times 3 makes 24, so 3 times 7 is going to give us 21. Now I can add since I have common denominators. So 4 plus 21 is 25. Keep my common denominator of 24. So that's going to be a problem, but we'll address that in just a second. 10 plus 4 is 14. Now, 25 over 24 is an improper fraction. We cannot have improper fractions with the whole number. This does not look right to us. So, for now, we're going to ignore the whole number, and we're just going to change that improper fraction. 24 will go into 25 one time whole. And if I put 24 into 25, I get one number left over, which is the difference between 24 and 25. And then my denominator is 24. So this goes away, and I now have 1 and 1/24. But I can't forget about the whole number 14 over here. So what I'm actually going to have is 15 and 1/24. Now I need to pay attention to my sign because originally I said I'm going to add and keep the sign, and the original sign was negative. Now the last one involves borrowing fractions, and you do have one of these on your homework, so make sure you're paying attention. When we borrow fractions, we have a positive and a negative, so I'm going to be subtracting. So I have a whole number 9, and then I have 5 and 7/10. I'm going to be subtracting these. Now, I can't, it's like there's a 0 here. There's nothing here in the fraction column, and I can't take 0 from 7. So I'm going to have to borrow. And the way I do that is I create a fraction, like so. And I want a common denominator because I have to have a common denominator, so I'm just going to go ahead and make this denominator 10. If I put a 0 right here, that still means I don't have any of the 10 slices of pizza. And it was just as the same as if it wasn't there at all, which is what we had originally. So me putting 0 over 10 does not change anything. But again, I can't do 0 minus 7. That's not going to work, so I'm going to have to borrow. I'm going to borrow the whole number, make this an 8. And then I'm going to add these two together. Add them together. 0 plus 10 makes 10 over 10. And if we think about it, 10 over 10 is actually 1, right? And 1 plus the 8 over here actually makes the 9 to begin with. So again, I actually haven't even changed the value of anything. All I've done is just rearranged it. So now we can take 10 minus 7, which is 3, keep my denominator, and then 8 plus 5, which is also 3. Sign of the larger number is going to be positive, so there's that.